Before we go into the question, let's hear some story of Normala. Normala worked as an operator. 10 days before her expected date of confinement, Normala feeling unwell and told by the doctor to rest. She wanted to commence her maternity leave 1 week before expected date, but her employer was not happy. At the end of 60 days maternity leave, Normala diagnosed with postpartum psychosis and she was given medical leave for another 1 month. Later on, she received termination letter by her employer. She and her husband feel dissatisfied and wanted to claim for unfair dismissal.
Question 1. With reference to the Employment Act 1955, identify the conditions under which Normala is allowed to commence her maternity leave before her expected date of confinement. There were two provisions that can be used for question 1. The first one is Section 37, Subsection 1, Subsection A of Employment Act 1955 has stated that every woman shall be entitled to maternity leave for an eligible period in respect of confinement. The second provision is the Section 37, Subsection 1, Subsection B of Employment Act 1955 has stated that, subject to Section 40, maternity leave shall not commence earlier than a period of 30 days. However, if the medical officer has certified that she is unable to perform her duties satisfactorily because of her pregnancy, then she can ask for maternity leave from her employer in between 14 days before her confinement date. For Normala case, for the first provision, which is Section 37, Subsection 1, Subsection A, she can apply for maternity leave as she is a female employee and she was entitled for the leave. Next, according to Section 37, Subsection 1, Subsection B, where she asked for the maternity leave from her employer a week before the confinement date, and then, as explained in the provision that she can ask for the early maternity leave 14 days before her confinement date. This situation showing that she has fulfilled the requirement for the provisions, hence she was allowed to commence early maternity leave.
Question 2. Explain the maternity protection given to the woman under the Employment Act 1955. There are many maternity protection under the Employment Act 1955. First is Section 37, in which the female employees are entitled for maternity leave for an eligible period for each confinement and also are entitled to maternity allowance. The duration for this leave must not be less than 60 days for each confinement. However, the maternity leave shall not begin earlier than 30 days from the confinement period unless the employee is certified unfit to perform her duties by the medical officer. Next, under Section 37, Subsection 4, as stated that any employers who terminate the service of a female employee during the period of her maternity leave is considered has committed an offence. In addition to that, female employees also be given additional protection of restriction to dismiss after an eligible period, which has been stated under the Section 42. An employee can remain absent from her work for not more than 90 days despite the expiration of her maternity leave for being unfit to do her work due to the illness that have been caused by her pregnancy or confinement, which can be certified by the medical officer.
Continue with the Act, female employee also entitled for maternity allowance. This provision is put under Section 38 Employment Act 1955. Payment of maternity allowance, which is the same manner as if such allowance or wages earned during wage period as provided in Section 19. But there are some situations where female employee can lose her maternity allowance. It's explained in Section 40, Subsection 1, Employment Act 1955, which is loss of maternity allowance for failure to notify employer if she aware about the confinement within 4 months from the date she leaves her employment. Other than that, Section 40, Subsection 2, Employment Act 1955 explain suspension of maternity allowance for failure to notify employer within a period of 60 days of her expected confinement date, which she intends to commence her maternity leave. She may be suspended until such notice is given to her employer.
Question number 3. With reference to the Employment Act 1955, discuss whether Normala's employer has the right to terminate her services. Before we decide whether Normala's employer has the right to terminate her services or not, let's go through the issue on this case. First, she informed her supervisor, Mr. Bala, that she would like to commence her maternity leave 1 week prior the expected date of confinement. Secondly, Normala is entitled for 2 months of maternity leave. After 60 days of her leave, she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis and was given medical leave for another 1 month by her doctor. She has later received a termination letter from her employer. Now let's make a decision. According to Employment Act 1955, as we have discussed on the previous question, Section 42 Subsection 1 regarding the restrictions on dismissal of female employee after eligible period should be referred for this case. Hence, employees must place strict observance of the provisions of maternity protection and cannot take lightly the provisions of maternity protection, as if it is breached, there are penal consequences under Section 94 Subsection 8. Commits an offence of law under the law which can be punished if convicted of a fine not exceeding Rm 10,000 for each offence. Now, looking at the given timeline, it is believed that Normala has 60 days of eligible period plus 90 days of dismissal protection. In conclusion, Normala's employer has breached his power by terminating her service since she is protected under the Employment Act 1955.
Question number 4. By referring to the case study above, identify the social security benefits available for Normala. The social security benefits available for Normala is maternity benefits. There are 3 kinds of maternity benefits which Normala is entitled to. The first one is maternity leave. According to Employment Act 1955, Section 37, Subsection 1D, Subparagraph 2, Normala is entitled to get not less than 60 consecutive days of maternity leave. Second, she is entitled to get early maternity leave. According to Section 37, Subsection 1B, the maternity leave period cannot start earlier than 30 days before the confinement or other later after the confinement. In this case study, Normala is eligible for 1 week of early maternity leave as she is unable to perform her duties as a result of her advanced state of pregnancy. Third, she is entitled to get maternity allowance. According to Section 37, Subsection 2B, Normala is entitled to receive from the employer for each day of the eligible period a maternity allowance at her ordinary rate of pay for 1 day.